welcome everybody. Thanks for making it here to the hottest room of the Academy. I have planned this panel together with Renate, who will introduce herself shortly. But before we start, I have a little present. I brought a little present because you made it to the hottest room and there is no air condition because the walls are more important than basic human needs here. I would argue a little bit critically. This is my present for myself. If you want to, you can pass it on. I'm sorry, I don't have one for everybody. So those who were brave enough to sit up front do get the candy. Renate, I'm very happy that we did this together. It was really inspirational and really good that you are co-chairing this. Renate is, so to say, the grande dame of digital humanism. She has been working on a humanistic way of using technologies, especially for teaching, since 40 years maybe. I don't have the numbers exactly, but that inspired me really to work together, and it was really great to set this panel up together. Renate, would you be so nice and introduce the goal, the agenda, and yourself a little bit?
Thank you, Alex, for bringing in me here. And welcome all to this experiential panel. We hope to make it as experiential as possible and rely on your participation. Let me share a bit how this panel came into being, because I think that if you understand a bit of the context and the process, you hopefully will understand more and take more with you. So Alex and me, we both were colleagues at the University of Vienna and found out, though working at different departments, that we share the strong will to make education more effective and more meaningful by integrating digital technologies. And you did it at the Department of Pedagogy and me at the Department of Computer Science. And through a study assistant who realized that we are up to the same thing, he brought us together. And so we designed our courses together and afterwards reflected, and this was very helpful and interesting. And so we also wrote a paper on co-creativity together. Yeah, then after COVID times, we did not have a contact, but afterwards at this opening ceremony of the Humanistic Academy, we met again and decided to meet again. And you asked me whether I would be willing to participate on that panel that you set up on personal power. And definitely this is a topic that fascinates me from very early onward. So I immediately looked into my calendar and said, great, looks like I have time, I would like to. Then the next thing came and you asked me, so Renate, would you also be willing to chair this panel? And so I thought but it's your idea. You came about with all that, you already prepared that. So that would feel very strange to me, not authentic, that you should be the chair. And then you said, but well, I would also like to be on the panel and share my experience. So that was exactly the same with me. So we thought let's change the rules a little bit. Why shouldn't there be a panel that has two chairs, or a chair and a co-chair, and we both would be on the panel as well? So that's the story behind. And first of all, what's the goal of this panel? So we want to connect personal experiences to the ideas and theories of digital humanism. And Alex's ideas to do so was to invite people to the panel to kind of embody their personal experiences with their connection to digital humanism and also connect that somehow to science. So we on the panel will try to embody some of our personal experiences and the connection of them to digital humanism. And afterwards, we will have a dialogue among us and then hopefully very soon include you and invite you also in that dialogue so that you can share your everyday, very personal, perhaps, experiences that connect you to this community, I would say, of digital humanism. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for this kind introduction. Well, my name is Alex. I'm professor for digital humanism at the University of Applied Science, BFE Vienna. And I'm also research in residence with Fit for Internet, and I have the honor to chair or to be the chief editor of Digital Culture and Education. I have to switch off my talk with my small child now, so that we won't be... She wanted to listen, but apparently not for too long. Yes, and the idea of personal power came about last year at the conference, actually. We talked about very critical stuff and the power of big tech and the way big tech is and some governments are leading the AI development in a way that some might not like. And it was a very good and critical conference, and I'm also a very critical person. But at the end, there was a lot of feedback from the audience to actually what are we gaining for our personal lives. We don't want to live in despair. We want to engage in the audacity of hope. And that's why we want to look at those pockets where we are personally powerful and do that with you together to see how we can develop those spaces, those pockets individually and communally on another level and not live in despair in terms of anticipating dystopia with big tech and other powerful players in the field of technology. That was a bit of the background. I have one question for you. Personal power is always about also participation. So I would love you to participate in this one question. The brilliant colleague is trying to set it up in the back, and we are almost there. I see it already on the screen. So if you want to join in with this question, either by web or with the QR code, we will get a first idea on the statement, I feel powerful in the digital age, and whether you strongly agree, you be neutral in disagreement. You have a first idea how you feel at the moment and where we stand at the moment in this rather privileged audience. We have 10, 11, maybe somebody is still clicking, 21, 23, we're going, great. And also we somehow know the minimum number of people who is in this session. Okay, maybe wait until 40 if somebody is still clicking. If not, we can, I think, show the responses. So most of you feel very neutral. Some strongly agree that they feel powerful, over 40%, but most of you are neutral, but leaning towards a rather positive than a negative if we sum up these aspects. Thank you for sharing this. We will come back to the question later and hope that you also share those stories. Who else is with us? I was very happy that very international speakers came to Vienna this long way. For some, it's closer from Karlsruhe to Vienna. Bernhard Standl, freshly appointed as a professor in Vienna, makes the move more easy. Thank you for being here with us. Do you want to share 1 or 2 words about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for this short introduction. Bernhard Standl. So, as you said, I'm currently still professor for computer science education in Karlsruhe, Germany, but will move in 1 month to Vienna. So I'm kind of international, but at the same time, I'm not international. So it's kind of in a transition phase. So my relation to digital humanism or humanism in general is rooted very actually in the past when I used to be a computer science teacher, where I realized that how important it is to move like the students in the center of what's happening, of planning lessons, of carrying out lessons, of analyzing lessons. That the shift of a kind of a human-centered or person-centered way is for me like the only really accessible way to go in a successful or beneficial or computer science lesson. And this experience shaped my doing up to now, and so I'm very happy and glad to be here and also to be able to share my insights on what my perspective is on digital empowerment.
Well, thank you for being here with us. Next, Clara, the one and only. Mm-hmm. She's known as an artist and a researcher, so she combines the life worlds of an embodied artist and of a researcher, and she has incorporated knowledge about those worlds and will share that with us, and I'm really happy. She's also known, more of an inside joke, as she can train her chickens very well to do professional work in the family. But if you want to know more about this, you can ask her later. Clara, please.
Chickens, the main topic here. Yes, I'm a San Francisco-based artist and researcher, and my research practice focuses on the question of truth or the lack thereof in synthetic realities. And for the past decade, I have worked with Frontier Labs and tried to investigate the question of artificial creativity, where I've built Austria's first initiative at the intersection of art and tech. And in the framework of this beautiful panel of cool superstars to the left and right, I will try to talk about my personal empowerment and the question of authorship in creative practice and how we can take back a slice of that power.
Coming all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, I'm very happy that Hanoi made it. Here it says composer and creative director, but it kind of hides that he has programmed AI models both for an American big tech and for a Chinese big tech. So he is also somebody who can adapt through worlds and take something powerful, hopefully, for yourself from it. Would you be so kind to share a bit from your end?
Sawadee khab. Thank you very much, Alex and Renate, for having me here today. So I'm normally based in Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm very, very excited to be here in Vienna with all of you as part of the Digital Humanism Conference. Now, back home in Bangkok, this weather today is actually very, very normal for Thai folks. So this is completely fine. I don't know what all the fuss is. So as Alex mentioned, I'm both a research scientist and also an artist. I spent 7 years working in the tech industry where I developed, programmed a lot of generative AI models. I worked both for Google in Silicon Valley, in Google AI and Research before they rebranded into Google DeepMind. And I moved to Shanghai, China, where I worked for ByteDance and TikTok, and also worked for generative algorithms for that company. It's been a very eye-opening experience to see how the US approaches generative AI development and how China approaches generative AI development. And then at the end of 2024, I left the tech industry to follow my dream and my passion of pursuing music and arts full-time. So now I'm working primarily as a composer and as an artistic director, using AI and machine learning to empower music, dance and theater from Thailand and the greater Southeast Asia region, and really thinking about how we can use technology and AI in a way that reimagines and challenges and empowers individuals and communities back from my home region. So I'll be sharing some of those perspectives in our panel today.
Thank you so much for your short introduction. The first talk will be from Renate. I will ask you to take the podium, and she will talk about how to infuse humanistic values into teaching with technology and give us some foundational notes towards it. There you go. Sitz mich da.
Well, so my personal but also professional story. Personal as well as professional story goes to education. And even though I studied computer science, my heart has always been with the teaching and with the students. So from that basis, at the turn of the millennium, where e-learning came into the mainstream, I would say, I really saw the potential in the technology on how to empower us as human beings to learn more effectively, to have more access to learning, and also to totally redesign courses and go away from the talking, from the presenting, from the teacher being in the front, to having a lot more interaction with the students. And for that, technology was helpful. However, technology is very helpful.
It's not helpful all the time.
Yeah. It needed just some time. At that time, there was really a lot of possibilities and lack of guidance on which way to go. So should you teach anyway because you are supported to be the expert and you are not trained to be a coach, for example? Should you have students work with the laptops already, or rather not as fast, so to engage them more intellectually and not spend so much of the time to make the technology work, for example, in class? Then, coming from a deep interest in psychology and pedagogy, I also knew that dialogue groups, encounter groups would be important. Then, of course, also the books and so on. So it looked like I was not really decided where to go. So I felt something like a split between, on the one hand, the powerful computer science and all the technologies on the one side, and on the other side, wanting to do humanistic values in education. So where to look for an orientation? More or less by chance, I came across books by Carl Rogers on non-directive counseling, and then also his works on the freedom to learn. And there I found that significant learning would be a whole person experience, would combine the logical and the intuitive, the intellect, but as well as the emotions and the feelings, the concept, the real experience, the embodied experience, the idea and the meaning. And Rogers claimed that only if we learn it that way, we can be whole. And we will see some of that wholeness of all these concepts in Hanoi's video later. So this will be then a good connection to what this learning on a more holistic level can mean. Well, and also something that made me a lot thinking was another longer quote from Carl Rogers, who claimed that essentially the most important thing is the personal relationship between the teacher or educator and the learner. And if this relationship works, then also scholarly knowledge in the field, curricular planning, audiovisual aids, programmed learning already in the previous century where we wrote that, all that might be meaningful at some time or another. But the facilitation of this significant learning would most importantly depend on the personal relationship between the teacher and the learners. So we can ask that question, does that still hold true in digital age? Have you any idea? Just give you a moment to think about it. Would somebody like to say something shortly? Barbara? Yeah. I was puzzling over that question a long time. Then during COVID times, I asked students how they like the pure video facilitated meetings. And in fact, one student said, oh, you see, those teachers who cared in normal times already also do that very well with only the mediated interaction. But those who did not, even less do it now where we have all these technologies. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Well, so to be good at this interpersonal relationship, Rogers did a lot of experiential work on finding out the conditions under what this significant learning would happen in the best way. And he found out from his work in counseling and psychotherapy that there are 3 essential attitudes: openness or transparency, also called congruence, then acceptance, positive regard, respect, all are synonyms in that way, and also empathy and empathic understanding. So if you manage to provide these conditions and the students can experience them, so learning would be most effective. So well, my next thought was how to use this with educational technologies. Does they do these attitudes somehow connect to technology? And I think I'm strongly convinced that they do, and they do even strongly. For example, congruence or transparency. With learning platforms, you can make transparent the goals. You can make transparent the structure, the expectations you have for exams. So this is a lot easier to have this on a platform somehow digitalized. Also, I use something like reaction sheets where students after each course can write whatever was their experience in that course. Yeah? And this helps to build a bridge from one unit to the next. And if students see that they also can criticize something, and if I react on that, they really feel included. So this leads over to acceptance, where active participation is a sign of acceptance because you don't consider you as the only expert, you ask also the others. And so there's a lot more flow between learners and facilitators. Also, acceptance would connect very well to inclusion, where we know that AI can be very helpful on that. And the third, empathic understanding. If we build platforms with user experience in mind, so they would better respond to the human needs. So we need to keep that in mind, I would say. Another result from Rogers was that our self is formed through interaction with the environment and also through interaction with significant others. Our setup, our self are formed. So carrying that further, we would say the structure of self is definitely also formed through the communication style of teacher and learner. So that's why it is so important, but also it would be formed through interaction, for example, with chatbots. Yeah, so it would be very interesting, I thought, to see if their responses adhere to the core conditions of congruence, acceptance, and empathic understanding. So the implications for significant learning of all that are that if students perceive the teacher's core attitudes, then even generative AI, in my view, at one time or another, could be utilized as a really helpful resource. In particular, if students also perceive the interactions with the chatbot to be respectful, transparent, and kind of empathically understanding. I was very curious about that and asked ChatGPT some time ago how it simulates, for example, respect and positive regard. And it transparently responded, and I invite everybody to do the experiment with the newest versions to ask the chatbots in how far they are programmed to be respectful, open, transparent, and empathically understanding. Okay, so from that split between technology as my profession and pedagogy and psychology as something close to my heart, I somehow managed to unite those two in my job and also in my life, and I would appreciate to have strong collaboration between students, teachers, and also include AI in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Renate, for this insightful talk. For me, that translates into my personal life, in my personal activities, because the work of Renate, Rogers, Maslow, and everybody who followed the humanistic psychologies provided evidence that this kind of relationships makes yourself powerful. And this also is a pathway in the digital age to come back to this evidence from humanistic psychology and from digital humanism, so to act powerful in the digital age. So thank you very much for your insight. Next to come up to have is Bernhard, and he will give his talk on how to be enlightened through knowledge.
Okay, thank you. So, and I would like, I walk around, I hope it's okay.
Sure.
Would like to start with a question. What do you think makes us really powerful in our digital world? Any idea? What makes you powerful in your digital world? Yeah.
I would say the ability to reach more people, like being interconnected.
It's like to interaction and communication with other people. Any other ideas? Yeah.
To critically mistrust the
yeah. To critical question the platforms and the systems. Yeah, that's a good point as well. So my point is that the digital freedom not starts at the interface. So if we look at our tools like mobile devices and all the other tools and platforms and whatever, AI tools, ChatGPT, whatever, it's always like the interface we see with just the interface. And I say the digital freedom or digital power maybe starts here, but you do not really dive deep inside in an understanding you need to know to be able to really understand the system. So it's a difference to know how to use digital tools and how to understand digital tools, how they work. And as I would argue that in order to really understand digital tools, you have to go underneath the surface, what's going on in the digital tools, in the gadgets, in the websites or whatever. So there's many things are hidden below that. So we are using tools from a user's perspective, but many things are below that, underneath the surface. Many of us do not understand because like the door is closed to access this knowledge. There's a lot of complexity, hidden complexity we do not understand. But the thing is that this complex things underneath the surface of applications still also shapes the way the tools are working and also shape the way how we use it. This is like an interaction also. So I would say it's also important to know how this stuff underneath the surface of application work. And here's what, as you know, like I'm a computer science educator, and my field of research is computer science education. And I would say like computer science is our help to get enlightened with knowledge we need to know to be able to operate in this hidden complex things which are maybe hidden below the surface. So the good news is that the concepts and ideas of computer science are very stable and long-lasting. So they do not change so much. And they seem to be complex when they're working. So it's not easy to understand how large language models work. It's not easy to understand how is it even possible that millions of data of emails like going around the world every day, and if I send an email from here to there, that the email even is received there completely. Now, how does this work? But the idea of how emails or one bit is transferred on a network, the idea, concept of it is not that difficult. And this concepts, how this stuff works, is quite stable in computer science. Different to the things which are on the surface, on the application level. Today we have ChatGPT, Gemini, tomorrow we have something different, and we don't know what. And this fast-changing application level also overwhelms all of us. So we don't even know what's happening in our digital society, in our digital world, what tools out there. Every day something new. So, and this also can lead, from my perspective, to moving away from seeing what's going on in the digital world, how these tools really work. And we are kind of let's say, a passive victim of the digital technologies somehow as well. So where does the power then start if you say, okay, we need to know how the tools work, how the tools are used, and also need to know at the other side how the tools work. So if you have both perspectives, like the outside perspective, how to use tools in a responsible way, and also know how the tools work inside, then we have two perspectives. And I ask the question myself, where does the power then emerge actually? And I think it could be like where the intersection of both is. No? If you transist from using it to understanding it, there's somewhere a point where both sides intersect somehow. And in this moment, where both sides of understanding of using intersect, I think this is the moment where the power of using digital tools emerge. And when I can use my knowledge in assessing, okay, I know how to use it and I know how it works and I can use this knowledge in assessing myself to know what's going on at the moment. How does my interaction with the tool influence the algorithm, and how does the algorithm again influence me, simply said. So therefore, we need computer science education in a way where both perspectives are addressed. And one additional point is in having a knowledge about the system, how the systems work, and how to use the systems, is that I'm not only capable of really deep understanding it for responsible and confident using it, but also I get the chance to become a co-creator of digital artifacts, of digital tools. So I'm all of a sudden part of the digital creating world, if I know both sides. And this, from my perspective, also would make the democratic perspective of our digital society more promising. So therefore, to come to this point, we work very hard to train future computer science teachers to bring like this important perspective into schools in order to have our future generations be prepared in a, let's say, holistic, confident way to use and to have an orientation in our digital society. Therefore, digital freedom does not begin at the interface, it begins underneath it.
Thank you very much, Bernhard. So he points to the importance of knowing about foundational concepts of computer science to also may become what Jürgen Habermas has called entspannte Verblüffungsresistenz. Can anybody help me translate that for our English audience? Impossible. It's
Relax. Methods not be known.
Thank you.
Not bad.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So if the concepts are not changing, maybe we can take a step back from this idea everything is changing too fast, We need to run and also run as fast as we can towards an uncertain future and lay back a little bit in that regards. Thank you for the translation. So happy to have Hanoi here to talk about his way to be personally empowered and what he uses in the world of creativity and technology.
All right, so I'd like to start off today by showing you one of my original productions that is a manifesto on how I see technology, culture, arts, and AI coming together in a way that empowers music, dance, theater from Southeast Asia. It's a piece that was premiered in April of this year. It's called Kineri Ni Fai, or in English, Flight of Kineri. I'll play you that first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in the production. Oh, and tech team, you can blast the music on this one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Let the waltz. Ding. So.
So, thank you. So that was Flight of Kinnery. So in that production, I was the director, producer. All the music that you heard is my original music that I composed with an incredible team of instrumentalists back home in Bangkok, Thailand. And as you saw from some of the snippets of that show, we thought really hard about the role of technology in empowering how we tell stories like the Kinnery to the next generation. And something that's very important for me in my work combining technology and culture is doing it in a way that really connects with the younger generation, and to really connect it with Gen Zs and to really connect it with university students. Actually, it's the most exciting thing when I have 19-year-olds in university come up and say to me, your shit is super, excuse me, Frank, it's like, your stuff is super cool. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we're going for. And technology actually plays a huge role in how I approach reimagining culture. So as you might have heard from some of the music and sound from that video, there's something quite distinct about the tonality and some of the melodies that you hear in that music. And this is largely because the way that I approach writing electronic music is I actually use machine learning and AI to analyze the frequencies that are found in instruments from Thailand and use that as the basis of my compositions, because instruments from Thailand and actually from Southeast Asia don't follow the same tuning system as those as you might find in Western classical music. We don't follow equal temper tuning like you would find on a piano or a guitar. We have a tuning system that is very, very unique to our music and to our history and to our melodies. And what's been great is being able to use machine learning to actually extract this data and then inject this data into the generative process so that when I'm generating melodies or I'm generating sounds to be used as part of my composition, generating little fragments of music and little fragments of audio to weave into this larger composition that I'm working on, they're exactly tuned to music from Thailand. And that's how I'm able to get that very, very kind of modern electronic sound, but yet have it feel very, very distinctly Thai. Another really exciting thing about using machine learning and AI is how many of the sounds that you hear there are a combination of acoustic instruments that exist in Thai music, but it enables me to create an entirely new universe of sounds that don't exist in real life. They are imagined sounds that have been generated through technology, but yet because of the way that I inject all of this information about our tuning systems, our rhythmic structures, although they are imagined sounds, when I play this in Southeast Asia, when I play this in Thailand, people feel like it comes from Thailand. People feel like there's something about these sounds that make it feel like it's part of our culture and part of our history. And the reason that this is so important for me is because when I was working at Google and working at ByteDance and working at TikTok, I very quickly saw that the issue of bias in these algorithms is very, very important. And these algorithms wield tremendous power in determining which cultures and which traditions are remembered and which traditions and which cultures are forgotten. This is particularly true if you think about the recommendation algorithms that drive YouTube or drive TikTok or drive Instagram. Literally, which types of music, which types of dance, which types of theater, which types of literature and poetry is pushed to the next generation is fundamentally determined by these algorithms. If you think about music generation algorithms, they're incredible at making music that sounds like jazz, music that sounds like hip hop, music that sounds like rock. But the minute that you try to generate something that is really rooted in Thai classical music, really rooted in Cambodian classical music, the model either fails or creates something that's more of a caricature of what that style should be. And so at a very macro level, it's very, very hard to influence these companies, which as Professor Schneider was speaking about this morning, these profit maximizing institutions to really care about these very, very small use cases on the fringes. And that's largely why in my own personal work and in the work that I engage with other musicians in Thailand and other choreographers in Thailand, we really try to interrogate where these models fail, what are the biases in these models, but yet how we can flip the script and use these models to empower our own creative works in a way that connects not only between us as artists, but actually the communities around us. And what's been really exciting has been, working with an incredible team back home in Thailand in developing works like DigHum2026. So we premiered this in April, and the reason that I'm in this the Western Hemisphere right now is because we actually wrapped up 2 performances at the Royal Opera House in London, UK, 2 standing ovation, which was really awesome and super cool. And what I hope to share with you today is sort of my perspective, trying to balance this world between the very technical, the very artistic, and the very cultural, and to think about how we as individuals can navigate this macro structure of algorithms that are determined by these very, very large forces, very, very large and capitalistic forces, and also the very micro in terms of how we can use these technologies to fundamentally empower and reimagination local history and local communities and the communities and people that are around us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hanoi. I should have said, if you want to dance, you can. Some did a little bit on their chair, a little bit hidden, but I did say that you got people moving. Thank you for that. Our next speaker, Clara Blume, she figured for herself that the concept of authorship makes her powerful in the digital age.
Thank you. It's been quite challenging. To talk about empowerment because there's a myriad of tiny stories. There's not one main narrative that gives back power in this powerless time, right? So let's make a mosaic of tiny stories and navigate those. So beside my research practice on truth, I've been writing songs and performing them on stage for over 2 decades. And in the last year, something really peculiar happened. So a bunch of my friends from very different walks of life have sent me AI-generated songs, like a song for their spouse, a breakup song, a song that sounds like Jolene. My inbox is full of them, and they all sound spectacular. I mean, what can I say? And in all honesty, more power to them. I love it. We need more self-expression and not less in this world. So, and the democratization of the arts, overall, it has tons of benefits. So good for you. For the past decade, however, I've been working inside those AI labs, especially in those times when they still didn't really much care about the arts or artists whatsoever. And I've been trying to get those teams of engineers together with artists to ask those really tough questions, those blind spots and those biases that Hanoi has been trying to point out because they are pretty clueless. I founded a bunch of initiatives on that, but this is also where Hanoi and I met back at Google Magenta. I also tried out about 40 music generators myself, and again, they're spectacular. Extremely powerful. But this talk is not about taste, because this is where we usually segue, and then people try to say, but do they really sound this good? They kind of sound a little off. Or people would say at this point, well, we should spot which part of that song was AI generated so we can be really outraged about that. I don't want this talk to be about that either. And yes, Spotify is littered with AI generated songs, and we should be outraged about the 50 copyright lawsuits that are ongoing about artists not being compensated and being pushed out of these platforms, because that's a question of royalties and who we pay for, our ideas. That talk is not about this. And also, I want to be clear, I'm not scandalized when an artist uses a generative tool. That outrage really ages very, very poorly. It's just being outraged about autocorrect. No. You know why I truly don't care about this, because it immediately puts us in a competitive mindset us against the machines. And that's really not what this should be about. It's not a competition. So in my creative practice, I have decided, by my own volition, I won't let transformer models generate my harmonies, my melodies, or my words. And that's not because they couldn't. It's because this is the part that I actually came here for. That's the part that I love. It's the part that I truly enjoy. So why? Why would I outsource it? So this is not a talk about the machine falling short. And that's precisely my point. The usual argument is about capability, and that's a trap. It says, here's what makes us human, because this is what the machine cannot do. And then the next month, the benchmark is reached, and we redraw the line just a little bit further, and then maybe a little bit further back, and then, we as humans spend our lives retreating further and further back. I have watched it happen. Back in 2020, I curated a project together with the German author Daniel Kehlmann, and I brought him to Silicon Valley to co-author a novel with one of the very first large language models when this was really very abstract. And the question we asked then was, can such a tool be creative? I'm a little embarrassed about this question now because obviously that question has been answered. And now we ask, can these systems ideate? And next, that argument is already obsolete, so I'm not going to make it. The question really isn't about what the machine cannot do. It is what we keep, even if we could outsource it. Because the danger is that we hand over the things that we should have kept, the good parts, the parts that were the point, the parts that push us further as individuals and as societies, even and especially if they're hard. The thinking, the drafting, the language that leads to new ideas, the language that pushes us further. And I get it, it's so seductive. I don't know when I wrote my last email. I seriously don't. And we do it in the name of efficiency, in the name of speed, and we don't even notice the cost until it's gone. So what matters in my song is that the value of my song lives precisely in the fact that it is mine. My audience doesn't come for a song, they come for my song. It's my ideas and my particular distillation of reality. And seriously, in my line of work, that's the ballgame. It's about authorship. Because authorship fosters trust. And from trust stems accountability. And in this value change, we progress from accountability to responsibility. And that chain grows more valuable and not less the faster and the more able those machines grow. So my line was never about whether a tool was involved or not. It's a question of integrity. I want to put my name under my creation. So the artificial outrage about what is generated or not, truly, that's not the point. In addition, and that layer is really complex, my instrument happens to be my body. So I stand on stage, I use my voice, I use my hands, and yes, we've talked about this plentiful. Large language models don't have a body. Yeah, sucks for everyone who doesn't need their body at their work, right? So, by the way, Hanoi and I are giving a concert tomorrow. You're all invited. Come and see us on stage. But most jobs are office jobs, let's face it. So if you spend your workday on labor that an agent can do faster and cheaper, preaching that you should keep the thing you love sounds cynical, if not borderline delusional. So I'm not going to say it. But even so, if a job is just a job, the harder truth is that even at this point, we have already begun to accept the logic that our work can be automated. If our work can be automated, then so can we. A market can price your economic value, and these systems are incredibly good at driving that value towards zero. But economic value and intrinsic worth are not the same things, and they must never become it. And we are in Vienna, so let me be German for just one moment. Worth is Wert, but it's also Würde, it's dignity. And that stems and grows from the exact same root. Dignity is worthiness. What has worth beyond any price? Kant is exactly that person that drew that line. So this is the theory of axiology. So the lie that I want to refuse is the one that collapses those two, value and worth. The one that tells a person that their worth lies exclusively in the function in this economy. But the refusal is only half of it. The other half of that sovereignty that gives me the right to say no to certain things also gives me the right to say yes. So I've used agents to code myself back into existence after my maternity leave. Women will know what I'm talking about. It is a desert. It truly is. So I have now more time, I have more reach, I have more attention for the parts that matter. My army of agents clears the ground for the things I love. I feel amplified. I truly do in many ways. Cloud code, be thanked, not replaced. And that is a collaboration worth it in the name. So again, it's not a competition between humans and machines because that's not where we operate. A silicon-based creation will differ from us in a myriad of ways, so we should not reduce ourselves to comparing ourselves with machines. It's silly. So let me talk about real quick what personal power is not. It's not about finding a competitive edge in a battle against machines. It's not about permitting to keep something because the machine has not yet reached it. It's not about fighting obsolescence or replacement. Instead, personal power, in my opinion, is the sovereignty to decide what is yours to keep and what is yours to hand over. It is the refusal to be reduced to what fits inside a dollar sign, the refusal to let the market decide what a human being is worth. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What would you hand over and what would you keep? And are you sure it is still yours? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody has an immediate response for Clara to the question? Also a good question.
I'm a horrible promoter. Someone said I should pick up some flyers from the venue and I forgot about it. This would have been really handy now. But it's tomorrow at the Off Theater at 8 p.m. And I know it's going to be brutally hot, but the bar has promised free drinks. So it's almost like handing out ice cream.
You find a common ground here.
Well, and finally, we hear what we expect, and I'm sure a very deep experience. Kindly, you, Alex.
Thank you. So we're doing it a little bit different. The chair also gets 5 minutes. We failed in that. We wanted to talk 5 minutes for everybody. Maybe somebody can put a watch on and I can do 5 minutes, even if it's not about competition. I wanted to talk about personal power and come back to the goal, why we are sitting here. Even if big tech, cyber wars and crypto creates chaos and despair to some extent, we can use digital humanism to act powerful in our everyday life. And I'm so honored to have heard so many amazing ways to do so. And I wanted to share 2 personal stories rather quickly, how I do it in my personal life and how I can be and feel powerful using digital humanism as evidence and as theory to act powerful in everyday life. First of all, I was diagnosed with an aortic aneurysma some years ago, and I found myself in times of despair. I found myself in a time where I didn't know how to navigate. And I used research and studies that helped me to make a personal decision. So the access to all this open access medical research made me powerful to make an informed decisions on how do I perceive with the surgery technology, which center I aim to go, when to do the surgery, and so forth. And there is great research in that moment that some had aortic valve sparing surgery, yes, but not for every patient, and select the center very carefully. So I did. I took the time, and I had the privilege to take the time because it wasn't that urgent to really look at different centers, to really look at different searches and make a final decision. Also, there is research about survival and freedom from this, and this is also very promising. So even though, as you may imagine, it hit me hard to have this kind of diagnose, I strongly find myself in a powerful position because humanism is a culture that puts science and technology and engineering over, for example, religion and faith for everyday orientation, to use digital tools to access medical research because there is so much open source there. And it's a science-backed technology that was used on me, and also the craft and the surgery technology. That is one example on how, even in times of despair, you can use digital tools and the way it is presented and knowledge for your own personal decision making. A second one that is more common, probably, or hopefully, is how do you deal with your child, for example, right? And there is a lot of despair out there because you know in the media how digital tools, social media can be harmful to your children, and there are tools to control and allow something with your children. But most of these tools are really to control your children. So the technology is built so that you can control your children. Digital humanism helped me in a way that transparency, dialogue, and freedom with responsibility are core values, core humanist values, and I wanted to introduce and use those digital tools so that those values do not disappear, even if they are focused on control. So I do sit with my children and I do let them see how much they used, what they used. I do use it to talk to them and have a dialogue so that they can have an informed decision on what tools they want to use more and what tools they want to use less. And I do give them freedom, but also freedom comes with responsibility. So I kind of repurpose these tools that are built for control. So with using humanist values, digital humanist values, so that I can have a meaningful conversation with my daughters, even though I use these tools. And I do hope that I can guide them in their pathway of using these tools healthy in that manner. You can ask me in 10 years if I was good in doing that or not. This has been my two personal stories about how I feel powerful in the digital age and how I use digital humanism and research. But I think there is one caveat, and I want to open the discussion with this caveat. And this is just an hypothesis from my side. I would say personal power in the digital age comes with personal, generational, and societal privilege with where the position I am in. So this is an opening statement from my end, and I hope maybe you have an answer or you want to put something in to this statement. Sure, go ahead.
First of all, let's say thank you for this very personal experience and such a hard and difficult one. And even in that situation, that the access to the internet, the digital technologies, and all these sources you could use so that we can enjoy you now as a person not having to struggle anymore with that threat. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Do we have mics for the audience? Thank you. I think 1, 2, yeah.
Thank you for the contributions. And I only wanted to refer to 2 points in your lecture. I was very fascinated about your notion of empathic understanding of the human teacher and of, for example, ChatGPT or chatbots. And I thought for me, one should differentiate between real empathy and simulated empathy by the chatbot. And I think it is something completely different. It's not empathy, it's performing empathy, but cheating, in fact. So this was a critical remark. And the second point, I was very fascinated. I'm a scholar of religious studies, and so I was very fascinated by your expression in times of deep despair, science and technology replaces orientation by religion or spirituality or so. And because as a scholar of religious studies, I was completely fascinated by the visual language in your presentation, which says something completely different than the spoken language. There are two levels. Spoken, for example, your presentation was full of spiritual images, religious images, light and enlightenment and this. I mean, there was a layer of meaning which fascinated me, and maybe it illustrates this hidden religious or spiritual dimension of our attitude towards technology and especially AI. I mean, it's just
I don't know. Is there
criticism? Is such observation.
Can I talk about the empathy thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
And after you, I thought first Hanoi would like to respond to the second question since it was more recent. Do you want to respond to the second question?
Okay, I'm just going to chime into the empathy thing. I agree with you, and it's kind of cheating and stuff, but we keep going in circle about this. Who cares if we call it empathy or not? Who cares if a machine is cheating at pretending to be empathetic? It works for people. And this is something where we just have to make peace with. I have seen people get results, like real results, talking to a chatbot as a therapist. So why not? Like, I understand that there's a lot of ethical considerations, and I won't lie about that. And that is a whole different talk. But I think we have to stop drawing that line and saying, but that's cheating. That's an AI that helps you. So that's not real. That's not real empathy. That's something else. Because if it works, isn't that a beautiful thing? And I understand that we will talk about the caveats, and there will be a long list of caveats from teen suicides to other people jumping from bridges and other complications of like liability, responsibility, and personhood of AI. And we can have that ethics discussion. But when it comes to semantics, I think we have to just stop insisting on this terminology that is only reserved for humans, because we're long past that threshold.
Yes.
Thank you. I still think it's important, what you shared. Just let me say, my intention was to invite you, because time is short, to ask the chatbots how they simulate empathy. And it was most revealing to me to see by what mechanisms they try to simulate it. But definitely they also confess that they cannot do it fully because they cannot feel as human beings do. So there's a difference. Maybe the difference for the application is not as important as we think there should be from our science knowledge. But definitely, and I like the openness of ChatGPT about, in fact, I truly can't feel myself into you, because I don't share your feelings, but from the way you express, from the way you use language, and from the way you ask me, I can infer some aspects where I try to simulate to be empathic on the more cognitive level as far as I manage. And I was really, I said, wow, great. And this openness and good simulation to me.
Anybody else wants to comment? Or do we have more questions? In the back, I think you've been,
Thank you. Well, I'm a little bit skeptical because about that. Why should we don't care about real empathy? Well, the thing is, we have to ask ourselves before, why do we do something ourselves? Why do we like art? Because it's resonating with us. Why do we read a book? Because we are resonating with the character. We are building up a relationship with pictures, with people, and they also sign us the expressions the author want to give us. Expressions, and I can never have, because that's not what makes us one of the things that makes us a person. It's one of the things that makes us human. And we need to differentiate between simulated empathy and real empathy, because otherwise the limits between what really makes us humans and the capacities of machines began to blur. And I don't think that that's something we would honor from my point of view. And so I am also for real discussions, because there we have heterogeny. So we have different people with different opinions, which allows contribute productive discussions, and not such homogenic groups like on Facebook who always say the same, more or minor yes men.
Thank you very much. Let me add on that. I totally agree that it is important to think about what makes us human, and also I totally agree about it's important to differentiate us. I think that the aspect of empathy is a two-sided road. If there are people who are really helped by talking to Chetty, right? And even if this simulated empathy, which lacks some kind of human aspects to empathy, helps people, why not, right?
Honestly, most humans simulate empathy too. So there's that.
Yeah. I'm happy to see evidence on that, so we can talk more. But of course, there are different aspects in empathy, and some people over-empathize. They really feel what somebody else is feeling, and that's not really always a good thing, because then you become codependent. So empathy is a really, really interesting concept that has so many different edges to talk about, and I think that the mirror of the machine does help us to see what makes us human in the digital age, because we do have now a different mirror than we had back in the days, and this kind of thinking about what we can still exhibit and what the machine is not able to do, for example, real empathy against simulated empathy, and we need research in what is actually the difference. To answer this question, I don't see that there is any out there. So we will, with some questions, we just need to wait for the evidence, and do some meaningful studies on it. Sorry,
can I add something super quickly? The gentleman also brought up a very interesting point about, from this perspective of art and music, what is the difference between artificially generated art and music and also human generated art and music. And as someone that straddles between both the technical world and the artistic world, I think something that really, for me, what differentiates AI generated art and music versus human generated art and music is very rooted in how we perceive music and art as human beings. Because if you think about it, to an AI model, a piece of art is really just a collection of pixels, and music is just a series of events in time. That's all that it is to this model. And even things that look like emotion or empathy or sorrow or pain is not felt as a series of hormones being sent from your hypothalamus through the rest of your body. It's perceived as a series of words, of tokens, of English words. But if you think about what music is, for example, is music the vibrations like in the air when a speaker plays? Like if we zoomed into like the vibration of air particles, is that where the music is? Or if we looked at the zeros and ones that are in an MP3 file, is that where the music is? I will argue that it's not. Actually, all music is actually like all in here, because it's our brains that actually make the music. And without our brains and without our bodies to perceive those sound waves, does it actually really become music? So I think this question about the division between what AI systems can and cannot do, what they perceive and what they cannot perceive, is really rooted in this very human perception of how our brains and bodies perceive art, perceive music, not as a collection of pixels, not as a collection of statistical events in time, but as something more embodied than that.
Yes, I would like to add this. I think, as you said, it's very much about the perception, how we perceive empathy or music. So on the first side, it doesn't really matter where it comes from a human or from a machine. But at the same time, I wonder somehow that how is it possible? No? Because if you perceiving empathy from a real human person, you will perceive much more than just the on an intellectual level empathy or music. So, but I think there is still research to do in this field. There is difference in perception and how. So is the strength of a machine like being able to combine millions of neuronal networks and nodes and so on in very short time? Is it the reason to compensate like what the machine lacks of what the human has, like in Herflich's aura and human being thing, no? But I think at the same time it has not, as you said, not to be separated. It's not war against between AI and human thing. I think if AI can help in a certain way, in certain fields for empathy, for example, perceiving empathy in struggling situations or whatever situations, and if I can use AI for being creative and creating music, which I would not be able to do without the AI, because I cannot learn 10 instruments in like 1 month. But this allows me to be able to express myself. That's a wonderful thing, no? But at the same time, there's this other field of getting music and empathy for real humans. At the same time, feels a little bit different. So, but I think it's has to be seen at two different fields and not trying to combine that and bring them in opposite against. Now we have to use this or this. We have to decide. We do not have to decide. No.
Partner up.
Yes.
Yeah. We have three more minutes left and a lot of questions. So please keep it short and crisp. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a comment about empathy. There are people who are neurodiverse, autistic. They can't conceive feelings, so they have to copy, they have to try. So for these people, this is wonderful to have this opportunity. And to your experience about your operation, I think there are people who look up everything in the internet and they get really scared because they read everything, what can happen, and then they don't go to the operation. Thank you.
Who else? Yeah. 1, 2. Bernhard?
Thanks for the great talk. I'd like to start by agreeing to what Clara had to say about it's what we keep that matters, and that tools basically help pave the way, clear the way for that impulse to come in. From there, something that came to my mind as a sort of comment in my head was perhaps the unique element that humans have is processing lack or incompleteness. And from there, you have, the impulse to create or to understand something in a very unique fashion, to interpret it and bring it to life. I don't know if machines actually process lack or incompleteness by themselves. From where I think I have a little question to Hanoi. The kind of work you're doing with Thai classical art and so on, what does that do with the community over there, and how does it, like the interpretive aspects, the aspirations, or they process lack or incompleteness, and these bring these interpretations to the forefront. How does that work with what you're doing right now?
There was one more comment or question, and then we took the final 2 or 3 words from everybody. Yeah.
Yes. For me, also what resonated is this discussion of what do we keep. And, I came in a little bit later, but so far what I gathered, it's a group of very artistic people up here. I'm a business person, I have a legal background, but still, I have the same question in my mind. And also being a mother in particular, it interests me, what are we going to keep? I wonder though, and that goes back on the topic of personal power, what is really in my personal power to keep? Is it really just the decision of me as an individual? Is it the market that will decide for me, that will influence where is my sphere of operating as a professional the majority of my life, which I will spend at work, as all of us, or is it, the government that will jump in and save us all, because we voted a certain way? I don't know, so for me, I would be interested, your perspective on, okay, how do we keep this personal space to actually have some freedom and liberty at a personal level to be able to have that power? And what do we need to make sure that these other actors I mentioned do in order to be able to keep that power?
Thank you. Anybody wants to comment on any of the questions?
I'll do like a 30-second summary. I'll be around. I can't answer those questions in 30 seconds, but please come and chat afterwards. On the point about how does it engage with the community, one of the reasons that I became an artist and a musician and left the tech industry was because I realized that trying to do the things that I care about in the context of a macro corporation just doesn't work. And I wanted to take things into my own hands. And music and art to me is kind of a shortcut to the soul. And so the message that I want to say arguably comes faster through a piece of music and an experience like this than it ever would trying to make this change in a corporate organization. So what's been really exciting is to actually engage with the community. And I'm very happy to say that back home in Thailand, people love my stuff. And from younger generations to older generations, my work is something that gets people to re-engage and recontextualize our history, mythology, and culture in new light. From the incompleteness, I think that's a really interesting point because from a technical perspective, A music model, for example, needs 100,000 hours of music before it can start generating music. Now, if you divide that by the total number of hours that an average person listens to Spotify in a day, which is about 2 to 3, you need about 100 years of listening to music before a human would be able to generate any kind of thing that sounded like music. And so I think that actually AI systems do require a lot of complete information, and that if you look at how we get AI models to actually be more useful, things like reinforcement learning or fine-tuning, these are actually forcing the model to go into very, very specific spaces of what it's learned in like the embedding space. And in many ways, you can think of that as actually getting the model to be kind of like a little bit more incomplete in that it's only focusing on a subset of data and almost ignoring other subsets of data. So I think this idea of completeness and incompleteness is actually a really fascinating one. We should talk a little bit more after that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I would like to respond to the question of the lady. Thank you also for your comment. I think I won't be able to solve that question of what makes us human and is it the lack and the incompleteness, but it's definitely the imperfection. There's something there. To your point, I think this is an ongoing negotiation and it is a very personal one, but it is about choice and agency and the knowledge of accepting and understanding that you do have it. You are a consumer after all. You can click that button that says, don't use my data. You can click that button, I don't want to be part of the training set. It starts with that, but it has repercussions throughout your life. I understand that the business life is completely different. You might be dictated by choices that you have absolutely no control over. And if you are in a leading position, you will very likely find yourself losing a lot of employees and having to tackle a much bigger workload because you are the one creative person that the company needs and everyone else will be let go. At least in my ecosystem, that's currently what's happening. We only need, as Zuckerberg says, we only need one talented person and not those 4,000 heads that I have hired during COVID. So in essence, make sure that what you keep is your personal choice. I have to, I want to say this one anecdote real quick. There is a bit of a lie there. Engineers have sold this tale of like, wow, if you use Codex or Claude, the agent will just work in the background and you go for a run and you just read that book, go and read that Nietzsche and don't go and play with your kids. The truth is, everyone in my ecosystem, they work until 4 a.m. because you can't let go. That algorithm, like that interface, it pushes you to keep on working and pushes you to keep on working. Like it's relentless. I don't recall when my husband, for example, who's an AI researcher, stopped working the last time I checked. It's an insane workload. It has triggered so many possibilities that there's actually so much more to do and not less. So there's also the question of the agency to say, I could do it, but I choose to spend time with my kid now. And I think that will be increasingly hard and a higher demand on us and the strength to do that.
Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else wants to comment on?
Me, I think that was a strong ending, and I would like to be respectful to time. So any other questions and dialogue can go on in the coffee break. I would suggest.
Thank you. Thank you.